Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session, Myth-Busting Change Management. My name is Steve Green. I'm a Director of Business Programs in the Industry Solutions team here at Microsoft. I'm privileged to lead for the last 6 years programs to build change management skills and capabilities across Microsoft. Whilst there are many methodologies and frameworks that focus on the change management discipline, for example, the Association of Change Management Professionals, or ACMP, Change Management Institute, CMI, AGMP International, Change First, etc., here at Microsoft, we invested in the ProSci methodology. This has enabled us, with our enterprise license, to build skills and competencies across our business, leveraging the 22 plus years of research, the tools and best practices to further improve adoption, both internally with our partners and our customers. Change management is an essential component of successful organizational change, helping to minimize disruption, increase adoption, improve communication, mitigate resistance, and meet the goals and objectives of the platform or services that you want to embrace, adopt, and use. In this session, I'm going to explore some of the myths that surround change management. Throughout my decades of working in the IT industry and through the many conversations I have had, these 5 are amongst the most popular questions or statements I have heard. It's not an exhaustive list, though. Indeed, these may be the opening position and start of a conversation. I want to share how I would respond and then develop the conversation further. I trust by me sharing my experiences, this will help equip you with data and reference points that will enable you to be a little more comfortable in having the conversation with your colleagues. Immediately after this session, we do have a live Q&A, and I would love for you to join me in that conversation. Post into the chat now if you wish, but to share your experiences, or if I can clarify further a particular point. So these are the 5 areas that I want to talk about. Number 1, we do not need change management. Number 2, it's just communications and training. 3, I just need a senior executive to tell people. 4, I have a change manager, so they will do all of the work. And 5, change management is only for large projects. So let's jump in. Myth 1, we do not need change management. And let's be honest, I hear this a number of times. The truth and the reality is, though, that any project where success is dependent on people adopting, embracing, and using the solution should use change management. I suspect some people might be even asking now, what is change management? What do you mean? We've been doing change for years. And that's true. And a lot of change management is common sense, but perhaps it's not common practice. Here we have the definition from ProSci, that change management is the application of a structured process and set of tools for leading the people side of change to achieve a desired outcome. And this is great. But what does this look like in reality? The process, the structured process that ProSci have put together, begins with a foundational tool called the Project Change Triangle. This has 3 elements which all need to be in equilibrium. Leadership and sponsorship at the top, project management bottom left, and bottom right, we have change management. All of these 3 elements are critical, ensuring we achieve what's at the center of that triangle, which is success. In the middle, you'll see the star icon, an ADKAR. Excuse me. ADKAR being the second foundational model. Wrapped around, we have the 3 phases. The prepare approach, where we look at addressing things like defining success, impact in our approach. So defining a strategy that we're going to use. Then we move into manage change, where we put in place activities and actions. We track our performance and we adapt those actions based upon the results that we are seeing. And the final phase, phase 3, sustain outcomes, is where we look at reviewing the performance, activating and ensuring that we transfer ownership to business as usual. And this is all about taking individuals through the ADKAR journey, moving them from their current state through transition into a future state. Now, I mentioned at the beginning that the truth is where success is dependent on people adopting, embracing, and using. So how do you quantify that? And here we have another tool from ProSci which helps equip us with that information. The return on investment calculator is not calculating the return on investment. You'll use another tool for that to make that determination. But what you have here is we're saying we have 100% of benefits. A portion of those benefits are going to be derived when we install the solution or the capability or the service, whatever it may well be. And so we calculate that as being the installation contribution. But if we were to document the organizational benefits and the project objectives and identify which elements of those are only achieved when people adopt, embrace, and use, we get the remaining balance to get to that 100%. So in the example here, we need change management because 64% of the benefits of this particular program and this particular service are dependent on employees or individuals embracing, adopting, and using the solution. This is a fantastic tool if you're looking to justify why you should be investing in change management. You've now quantified, okay, it might be a little bit rough and ready, but you have quantified that for us to achieve success, the 100% of our benefits, 64% of those are dependent on employees adopting and using the solution. Now, change management, whichever methodology or framework that you are using, has its own set of vocabulary, and that vocabulary can be a little off-putting. What I like most recently that ProSci have introduced is the construct around plain language questions. These plain language questions help break down those barriers between a change management expert, a practitioner, a subject matter expert, and the business that we're connecting with. So whilst we have define success, define impact, and define approach, those being the phrases that we would use as change managers, when we are communicating with customers or with colleagues who perhaps are not familiar, rather than try and translate, we can use these plain language questions. So for defining success, yes, there are a series of activities that sit within this, but ultimately, what are we trying to achieve? I think all of you will agree that is a question that most people would be able to answer. We then move on to think about who has to do their jobs differently and how. And then in the final stage of define approach, what will it take to achieve success? And you can see there are 6 other plain language questions covering the manage change and the sustain outcomes. So hopefully you agree that actually we do need change management. You could use this, use tools such as the CM ROI calculator, change management ROI calculator, to help convince your customer, your colleagues, or even yourself that you do need to invest in change management for this program. Myth 2 is that actually I know what change management is. It's all just comms and training. And this is something that I hear time and time again. And comms and training are integral to the change management process. I will share with you shortly some of the plans, some of the capabilities that you need to put in place. But before we do that, what I'd like to do is just contextualize how individuals change and how the ADKAR model helps us take an individual from how they work today to how we want them to work in the future. And I'd ask you to reflect on this yourself as I'm going through this material. ADKAR is an individual change model. On the left-hand side, you will see here that we have got the acronym ADKAR and what the actual words are that make this up. Awareness, desire, knowledge, ability, and reinforcement. And it's a sequential process, which is incredibly straightforward, that we all go through, whether it's a personal change or a business change that we're encountering. Whilst it's sequential, it's not necessarily linear. We can go backwards. We might be progressing through, but then revert back to a lower state. And what we're trying to do is make sure that individuals understand the need for change so that they can make a decision to participate and engage. Once they have that, they will then start to learn how to change and how to behave differently. Then, as we get to ability, they can start to think about, these are the skills and behaviors that I learnt and I'm putting them into practice. And then finally, those new behaviors, those new activities, those new skills, they have to be reinforced to prevent me from reverting back to my old ways of working. In terms of if you're leveraging this model, even if you haven't educated people on the ADKAR model, and I don't necessarily advocate that you should teach every employee in the organization the ADKAR model, but you could. If you start hearing from employees or individuals, the phrase is similar to, I understand why, or I have decided to. They are indicators that people in the organization are prepared to work and behave in a new way. And then finally, if you start to hear these triggers for building on the right-hand side, employees or individuals are saying, why? Why now? What if we don't? Then there's likely to be that people are in that area of awareness, and that's where they are stuck. There is a scoring system that goes along with ADKAR. It ranges from 1 to 5 for each element. And so if somebody has what we call a barrier point, that is a score of 3 or below, then you are likely going to need to do some work to get people to transition to this new way of working. Why am I telling you this? Well, if you think about the life cycle of a program and a project, what we need to do is align ADKAR to those activities. So as we're planning, developing, deploying, etc. So what you would be doing in your environment is thinking about tracking those ADKAR moments through the life cycle of the project. So after you've communicated the why and the why now of this particular program, the result should be that individuals now have awareness. So if we were scoring this, a score of 4 or 5. Before people go to training, what we want to do is make sure that they have a desire to participate and engage. The what's in it for me, or the WIFM, has been addressed. So again, if we were checking in and using a surveying tool to capture where people are, they would have awareness and desire. They know why, and they've decided to. That would allow them then to go on training. And that training would ideally take place before we go live with the solution, because we want people to understand how to use it. And when we get the majority of people into ability, that's when we'll start to see the benefits coming to the fore. So prior to go live, we'll be teaching people, giving them those new skills and capabilities, and putting into practice what they have learned. And then after live, which is an interesting concept, when you go live, do you really get all of the outcomes that you set out to achieve? It's unlikely. So we want to reinforce that behavior, and there'll be a time period after we have gone live where we're reinforcing. People are still lurking and building up their ability, but we're reinforcing that change. Now, I mentioned that comms and training, or communication and training, are part of a comprehensive change management plan. From our experience, the 8 bullet points you can see here on the left-hand side, these are the plans and actions that we need to put in place and have put in place with hundreds, if not thousands, of our customers, where we have helped them move to Dynamics 365, M365, or embracing Azure. Indeed, you may be familiar, and if you're not, I would encourage you to take a look at this. The Dynamics 365 Adoption Guide builds on this foundational knowledge of change management and puts it in the context of a Dynamics 365 engagement. Throughout this Customer Success Day, my colleagues are also sharing some more specifics on areas such as how do you assess the health and building out change networks. I mentioned that comms and training are part of a change management plan. They are important. On the right-hand side, this is a representation of what are called the employee-facing and then activity plans. So employee-facing roles, or these role plans of a sponsor and a people manager, this sort of bingo chart is highlighting how each of these plans contributes to one or more components of the ADKAR model. Our sponsor plan is focused on addressing awareness, desire, and reinforcement. Will it contribute to knowledge and ability? Maybe, but its primary focus is awareness, desire, and reinforcement. The comms plan is awareness and reinforcement, and the training plan, knowledge and ability. I left the people manager plan till last. This role is so crucial when it comes to a change. Our sponsors, our leaders, our executives will be communicating those business reasons for change. And that's fantastic. We need that evidence, and the research shows that senior leaders and executives, around about 75% of people want to hear from our leaders. The people managers, again, it's a similar number, around about 70%, have reported through to ProSci in their best practice research that we want to hear from our people managers. They influence all elements of the ADKAR model. People managers take those business messages and translate them into personal messages. If I take an example here in Microsoft, as you are probably aware, we talk about growth mindset as part of our culture, diversity and inclusion as part of our culture. And we get those messages from our senior leaders, from Satya, from Kathleen Hogan, from Brad Smith, etc. And that's wonderful. That really contextualizes for me what needs to be, why we're doing this. But then the practicality of what Steve Green needs to do differently, yes, I can make interpretations, but I will work with my manager. In this case, Laurie. Laurie and I would have a discussion. This is what it means for Steve Green and how Steve Green needs to behave differently. So we've looked at 2 myths. What about the third myth? That I just need a senior executive to tell people what to do. Sometimes that can be viewed as the sort of carrot and stick approach. And I don't know about any of you, sometimes that works, but in most cases, for me personally, the carrot and stick approach is not necessarily the best way to motivate me to engage and do something differently. What is evident is that a senior executive is the best sponsor for the change. But change management is a team sport. ProSci undertakes studies every couple of years, and there are over 22 years of research. The number one contributor in every single report has been active and visible sponsorship. And an extremely effective sponsor is going to increase, or has the probability of 73% that you will meet or exceed your objectives. So it's incredibly important that sponsors are out there engaging with the workforce, engaging with employees, communicating with them. In fact, we have a mnemonic of ABC for a sponsor. They should be active and visible, building a coalition of support, and communicating directly with employees. On the right-hand side, these are typically the roles, not just from ProSci, you'll see this elsewhere, but we have to remember that it's not just about telling people why they should be changing and what are the benefits of doing that and coaching them on their journey. We're going to need some enabling roles in terms of change practitioners and project managers. We work hand in glove with project managers. You may also hear about and have seen, and these have proven to be incredibly valuable, the concept of champions or ambassadors. So we have these sort of change agent networks that are built up, peers of individuals in the organization who people can connect with, relate with, and actually, will help them transition to this new way of working. So what do I mean when I say building a coalition of sponsorship? Most changes, in certainly large organizations, you're probably going to need more than a single sponsor. This is called a sponsor coalition map. Across the bottom, we have the impacted groups or communities of people that are impacted by the change. Immediately above this, we have got initials of an individual who is authoritative over that community of people. So you'll see the letters DC, WR, TL, CH, and BU across the bottom. Those are the individuals who are primarily going to be delivering those messages of why it's important for finance, why it's important for manufacturing, sales regions, and logistics. And it would be TJ's responsibility, our primary sponsor in this program, to really start to build that coalition across the organization, ensuring that all of the leaders of the organization are hopefully supportive and not neutral or opposed. The green box with the S in it, that means they're supportive. The N is neutral. And then the O in parenthesis is opposed. And we would work with TJ to equip him or her in performing that role of building that coalition. And so just to continue that this is a team sport, there are, from a ProSci perspective, these 4 key roles. Employee facing, the sponsor, performing those ABCs that I mentioned earlier, and then the people manager. Remember, they are impacting all 5 elements of employees moving in their journey. And therefore they have a role of a communicator, communicating those personal reasons of why this is important, taking those business reasons and translating them. They act as a liaison to us as a project team, so the change practitioners and project managers, so that we know how the change is transitioning, how it's going. They have to advocate, similar to sponsorship, I guess, but they have to advocate for this change. Because if your manager is not supportive of a change, it's highly unlikely that you will need to participate in that change. They will be the front line for any resistance, any objections, concerns that employees have. And they will also be those ones to coach us on that journey. And so we as change practitioners and the project managers working hand in glove, this is not a them and us, almost think of it as a zipper. You're joining those 2 pieces together, will work to equip and enable the sponsors and the people managers to deliver on the program, project, the success that you're looking to achieve. Now, sometimes it can be a little challenging to get people to really understand what their role is. And this is where we have another asset in our tool bag to think about. We've identified that we have, and on the left-hand side, you've got the PCT model, a little larger, with those named individuals or those roles. And I love this construct of the I by statement that ProSci have put together. And whilst these are generic, you would adjust these to make them something that people can connect with. And it's almost a contract, almost like a handshake, if nothing else. So it's clear to a sponsor, to a people manager, to the change practitioner, and to the project manager, what it is that we're asking them to do. So if, for example, I was sponsoring a change, I'm effectively saying I, Steve Green, contribute to successful change outcomes through adoption and usage by actively and visibly participating throughout, building a coalition, and communicating directly. That creates that bond, that connection, that agreement between the change practitioner and, in this case, the sponsor. I'm not advocating that you use exactly those words, but I would encourage you to think about how can I connect the sponsor with what we need them to do, remembering it is their project, it is their program, it's their success that we're looking to deliver for them and work with them to deliver. Therefore, how can I make that agreement and put it in place? Which leads to myth number 4. I have a change manager and they are going to do all of the work. First of all, if you have a change manager or a change team in place, thank you. Brilliant. That's wonderful news. You already know the value that they bring to, for example, technology implementations. You may find that they have an understanding of what they do, but maybe it's not entirely clear to yourselves. Or indeed, if you're looking to engage with a partner or engage with Microsoft, or you're looking to do this yourselves and set up your first change manager, exactly what is it that change managers do? It's true that change managers contribute to the success. They have a lot of activities and there is a lot of orchestration that is necessary. They do work as well, by the way. It's not just orchestrating. But I love this analogy that a change practitioner is like the director of a play. They may not have written the script. They're just here to direct. Our project team, if you imagine that we're in a theatre or a theatre, sorry, I'll stay with a theatre. Imagine that you're in a theatre or a play somewhere being put on. Our project team have built the set. They've got the lighting, the audio, the video all in place. The audience are employees or individuals who we're looking to change. On stage, the actors and actresses are the sponsors and the people managers. Our role is to equip and enable the sponsors and the people managers to deliver the message that they want to deliver to the audience. So I love this as an analogy to think about what our role is. We should not be on stage as a change practitioner. Well, I don't feel that we should be. We should be behind the curtain, pulling together all of the wonderful work that the project team have done in building, in this case, the set, making sure the lighting is perfect. We've got fantastic audio and video, enabling, prompting the senior leaders, coaching them, enabling them to be successful. And what ProSci have done, and you can find this, there is a link here as well in their change management job description. There are 4 key areas as roles and responsibilities for us as change managers. We should be taking a structured methodology and leading those change management activities. If you look at ProSci or any other methodology, there is a structure to this. And that what we're doing is leveraging those tools to ultimately create a strategy which is going to ensure or increase the likelihood of ensuring the project meets its success and achieves the objectives it sets out to achieve. Yes, we will be supporting communication efforts. We may find that actually, when it comes to communication, we are working with communication experts. But what we're doing is ensuring that those messages that are being delivered and drafted align to the business objectives and are sequenced appropriately to align with our overall moving those individuals through their ADKAR journey. Yes, we use tools to assess the impact, assess the change readiness, and identifying, just as I showed you with the sponsorship coalition map, those key stakeholders that are going to help us make this program successful. And what's interesting, yes, we will support training efforts. We'll provide input to say, this is how people work today, this is what they're going to do in the future, and this is how we would expect them to work. So we'll be supporting the design and delivery of training programs, but it's unusual. It's possible, but it's unusual that we are actually going to be delivering the training. We would bring in a trainer who is skilled in this particular service or capability, process, or indeed this perhaps behavior that we're looking to exhibit. Only 4 things? No, there's a little bit more. And indeed, as we start to expand, I've included some of the other additional responsibilities that maybe when you're looking to recruit somebody, you should ask people about these things. How have you managed stakeholders? How would you consult and coach our project teams so that we're working together? It's the technology or the technical side of change and the people side of change working together to move the organization and employees from their current state through transition into a future state. And the final myth that I wanted to explore with you today is that change management is only for large projects. Well, not entirely sure about that. What we do know is that change happens at the individual level. So any size project can use change management. ProSci research actually shows us that 55% of projects were, in the last best practices research, reported that over half of their change projects impacted less than 1,000 employees. Yes, it's true, 45% were more than 1,000 employees, but people have been using these tools, these capabilities, the discipline and skills around change management on programs as small as 5, 10, 15 people. Obviously, the amount of effort that's required to achieve success is going to be lower if you've only got a small number of people. But what we have to remember, and again, coming back to the individual, is that individuals change at different paces. Here we have a representation of 5 individuals. Those 5 individuals are going to go through their ADKAR journey at a different pace. That is perfectly normal. Some people might look at this data and wonder why Alana is so late compared to Kavita, Raheem, Grace, and Eric. Well, maybe Alana has just joined the organization, so it might take some time for Alana to be included in the program. She hasn't started with the organization. Could have been on extended leave, as Raheem was earlier. We have to take people on this journey. We customize and scale the plans dependent upon the change initiative that will, and the number of employees, and of course, the amount of benefits that are dependent on people embracing, adopting, and using. And the final point that I want to, before I sort of recap, we have to make sure that we sustain the outcomes. When we go live, as I mentioned earlier, we want people to be in that knowledge and beginning, ideally, ability, but it's going to take time for them to build up their skills, the competency, the proficiency to work and behave in a new way. And what that means is that actually it's unlikely that when you go live, you will achieve all of the outcomes at the same point. There will be this time window. So we've got the light switch of going live with the project. We are going to have to make sure that we are addressing the people side of change until the majority of people have got to ability. And then, if that is connected back to defining success, we should see those outcomes being achieved. Over the past 30 minutes or so, and I hope that you now feel a little more comfortable, that there is a high probability that you do need change management in your programs and work. You will scale it accordingly and customize it accordingly. A comprehensive approach is necessary. Again, linking back to the amount of effort or the percentage of people that need to adopt, embrace to achieve those outcomes. Change management is a team sport. It's not a one person who does all of the work. We as change managers are like the directors of a play. We're not on stage. We're not in the spotlight. It is the sponsors program, the executives, the leaders of the organization. And that change management can be used on any size project. Whether it is one person that needs to change, that's usually going to require a small amount of effort, 5, 10, 1,000, 20,000 people. You can use change management on any size of project. And I have some resources that I would like to share with you. There is the adoption guide for Dynamics 365, and there is a link on Microsoft Learn. ProSci have a number of resources. I'm sure that if you're familiar with CMI or ACMP or anyone else, they have resources too, but I've provided that here. I hope you feel that change management is a critical ingredient for a successful engagement. You can take this on yourself. You can get help from a partner, or you can engage with your Microsoft account team, and we can support you in your efforts. What I care about is that you do this. I don't mind if you do it with us, with a partner, or you do it yourself. I know that you will benefit by using change management, using some or all of the activities. And I trust that over the last 35 minutes or so, you have learnt one or two things that you can take into account and use as you move forward in your conversations with your colleagues and or your customers. And hopefully I will see you all soon in the live Q&A. Thank you very much.